Hello viewers, I am Rudrashish Dotto and teaching English is my profession. However, this channel would have nothing to do with my profession as such and would instead serve as a platform for my long fascination with the art of writing and the hobby of collecting writing instruments, which goes back to the early 1980s. I have named this channel the Seated Scribe after a famous sculpture dated to around 2500 BC found in Saqqara, Egypt. The sculpture depicts a seated scribe at work. It is now in a museum in Paris. The sculpture is actually a painted limestone statue. The eye is inlaid with rock crystal, magnesite, copper arsenic alloy, which gives its eyes an impression of a living organ. This painted sculpture represents a man in a seated position, presumably a professional scribe. The figure is dressed in a white kilt, stretched to its knees. It is holding a half-rolled papyrus. Perhaps the most interesting aspect of the figure is its face. Its realistic features stand in contrast to the perhaps more rigid and somewhat less detailed body. Hands, fingers, and even fingernails of the sculpture are delicately modeled, and his hands are in a writing position. Commentators tell that special attention was devoted to the eyes of the sculpture. They are modeled in rich detail out of pieces of red white magnesite, which were elaborately inlaid with pieces of polished and truncated rock crystal. The backside of the crystal was covered with a layer of organic material, which at the same time gives the blue color to the iris and serves perhaps as an adhesive. Two copper clips hold each eye in position. The eyebrows are marked with fine lines of dark organic paint, which has survived to this day. The scribe sits in a cross-legged position that might have been his normal sitting posture at work. He appears alert and attentive, gazing out to the viewer as though he is waiting for them to start speaking. He has a papyrus scroll laid out on his lap, but the reed brush, which writers often used in those days in Egypt, is missing from his hands. Both his hands are positioned on his lap. His right hand is pointing towards the paper as if he has already started to write while watching others speak. He stares calmly at the viewer with his black outlined eyes. I have decided to name this channel after this figure because I believe the work was one of the earliest and perhaps the best surviving work denoting and celebrating the ancient human art and practice of writing. And since this channel would be devoted entirely to this aspect of human endeavor, it would perhaps be appropriate to be named so. Personally, I have always been intrigued with the love and labor that goes into the making of a writing instrument or a pen. Since my first fountain pen, gifted to me by my father when I was merely 8, I have been fortunate to experience a wide variety of writing instruments, both the inexpensive and the not so inexpensive ones, from the smoothest writers to the most obstinate troublemakers. At the end of the day, I happen to love them all. I would be sharing in this channel, perhaps once a week, on a Sunday maybe, my experience with such instruments, preferably one instrument per episode, I would demonstrate the working in some detail and speak about my likes and dislikes with each one of them. I would include unboxing wherever possible. Where the instrument is new, I would review the working, my practical experiences with them, and also occasionally dive into my pen box to pick out some very interesting ones and highlight why they form a part of my favorite collection today. My first practical episode, possibly for next Sunday, would be an unboxing and a first time use of a Pilot Custom 74 with a medium nib in a clear see-through barrel. See you next Sunday. Goodbye.